Ethan Nash here reporting live for TOTT News. It's day 3, the final day of the G20 Peoples Summit here in beautiful Brisbane, Australia. I would be filming from the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre. However, once again, we've been harassed by police, had our bags searched and identification checked, telling us that we can't film here at the G20 Summit, even though we have every right to under these security laws. But apart from the harassment and the increased security and police zones here in Brisbane, it's been a pretty quiet day for the People's Summit. Not too much in relation to workshops and discussions, rather just finalising strategies and effective plans for the big G20 People's March tomorrow, gathering at Roma Street Forum. Now, the day started off, we went to a hall and discussed civil liberties and anti-terrorism legislation and some of the reactionary processes involved with the protests in relation to previous G20 summits. We then went to the Citizen Media Centre, where journalists from the New York Times, journalists from all over the world were there covering some of the mainstream media press associated with Anonymous, and there was also talks happening in relation to alternative media and how vital it is that we combat the mainstream media here in Brisbane ahead of our G20 coverage. And then we finished it off with a speaking with Larissa Waters from the Greens Party. Senator Larissa has been involved in many actions here in Brisbane, and she gave her thoughts on the G20 and some of the politically motivated agendas that are at hand. But it's been a big week so far, and tomorrow everything kicks off. The leaders are beginning to arrive. Some cavalcades have already started to come in, and we're about to get set for the leaders to arrive and for the marches to happen. So please subscribe to TOTTnews.com for all of your alternative news and media in relation to the G20.
I'm here on behalf of the Sustainable Population Party as the National Community Liaison Officer. Essentially, our message is that we seek to redefine growth. We're looking for new measures of growth. Growth measured by GDP is no longer producing the outcomes we're after. Well, at the G20 we have Australia's political leaders trying to push growth, 2% growth. Now 2% growth using exponential growth formulas means a doubling time for our economy of around 35 years. That means an economy that's twice as big, twice the throughput of resources. We live in a finite world, in a finite country, and there are limits to growth. We would contend that many of the problems, both environmentally, socially and economically, are caused by a failure to recognise the limits to growth, and to try to solve these problems, the problems caused by growth, with growth, is just crazy. Well, I think we need to establish a new set of performance indicators for our economy. I'll talk mainly about the economy now because that's why we're here, given the G20. But we need performance indicators such as employment, improved high employment. Australia currently, our employment rate's hidden at the moment. They use statistical tricks, but the real employment rate is somewhere around, well, unemployment and underemployment, 2 million Australians. And in some parts of the country, some regions, we're looking at 30% youth unemployment. So we would like to see the performance of our politicians, our economic system measured by things like improving employment opportunities, increasingly diverse economic base, improved access to health and education. We need a broader base of measurements to determine the performance of our economy. Simply relying on growth, in Australia's case primarily fueled by population growth, which means actually per capita decline, less per person, is no longer sufficient. It's too simple, it's not working, and we need a new approach.